on with us right now a guy who I listened to all my life growing up, going to many youth group events all the time. It's just cool to talk to you. Here we are, Stephen Curtis Chapman. How are you? I don't know what to call you. Do I call you Stephen, Stephen Curtis? What do I call you?
You just, man, Bobby Bones, whatever works for you, my brother. It's just Stephen, SC squared, hey, you know, whatever. Stephen Curtis, I refer to myself as Stephen Curtis just because it took me a while to get used to that name because I was Steve Chapman forever until there was another Steve Chapman. Long story, I ended up having to come up with a different name to record my first album. So Stephen Curtis. But really, you knew my music? You grew up saddling up your horses and whatnot?
Are you kidding me? And listen, Stephen Curtis.
This is awesome. Bobby Bones grew up knowing my music. That's really making my day, bro.
I went to Mountain Pine Baptist, right? We have population 700. Yeah. I went every Wednesday night, Sunday morning, Sunday night, every Saturday night. We'd have like a youth group dinner. If you don't think we were on some Stephen Curtis Chapman, you're crazy right now. Cinderella. I mean, anyway, I don't want to geek out too much here, but it is a real pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you, man. It is an honor to talk to you as well, bud. Congratulations on all your success. My family and I, big fans of your part of American Idol as of late. We love watching you. You bring a lot to that show. So great to meet you.
Well, thank you. Well, one of my friends, because I was geeking out that you were coming on, and I said, hey, Tyler, Stephen Curtis Chapman's coming on. He said to ask you this. You kind of answered a little bit, but he said, ask them if there was another Stephen Chapman and if that's why he threw Curtis in there, because obviously it was the right decision. Stephen Curtis Chapman sounds better, but did he always go by that?
No, I did not. I was like every other kid. My middle name, in fact, I think it's the reason we have middle names, is that's the way you know that you're getting ready, your mom's getting ready to take you out of this world, the one that brought you in. So, you know, whenever I heard Stephen Curtis Chapman, I figured I was in trouble. So I was Steve Chapman, and then, like I said, there's a Steve and Annie Chapman. In fact, their son Nathan Chapman went on to produce Taylor Swift's records and a great songwriter and producer. But his dad was Steve Chapman, and they made music. And when I was growing up, in fact, I had their albums because I thought it was so cool that another Steve Chapman it was gospel music, Christian music. And so when I started writing, people were getting us confused when I first came to Nashville, and they kept saying, are you the son of that Steve Chapman, or what's the deal? So the Stephen Curtis Chapman thing was just a way to differentiate us. Unfortunately, I didn't think it through because having had to sign my autograph several thousand times now, I wish I'd have gone with something like Toby or Carmen, but it's worked out all right.
Dang, Carmen, you're bringing it back right now. I listen to so much Carmen, too. Holy cow. I'm
the champion.
My head is exploding going through all the memories of, like, going to vacation Bible school and going to church camp. That was like Stephen Curtis Chapman Central, going to church camp. We would go up to – I won't start. Okay, that's a whole conversation. You have to come in the studio one day. We do have things to talk about here today. Okay.
I would love it, man. That would be amazing.
And I want to talk about, first, the song. It's called Together We'll Get Through This. And before I ask you, like, something deep about it, I have a kind of a personal question because it has Brad Paisley, Lauren Elena, and you'll have to tell me about Tasha Cobbs Leonard. But my question is, who did you call first?
Well, I called Brad Paisley first. I'd written the song, and I wanted to I thought a song like Together needs some other people together. Kind of makes sense. And I thought of Brad. Brad and I had shared a dressing room together at a Glenn Campbell tribute concert. Both of us huge fans, and he was kind of our guitar-playing, singing idol growing up. And so we were both at this tribute concert for Glenn, and we sort of bonded over our mutual love for Glenn and his music. And, you know, as you do when you're done, it's like, hey, we should get together sometime and do music. And, of course, I'm thinking, that's Brad Paisley, man. He's hosting, you know, CMAs and television commercials with Peyton Manning. What's he got time for doing something with me? But I wrote this song, and I thought of him. Just thought, man, he could crush some guitar and a vocal on this. So I had a mutual friend. I got his number because I didn't have it. I got actually an email. So I emailed him first, and I didn't hear anything for 3 days. And I was like, yeah, he's probably too busy. And who's this Chapman guy bothering me? So I texted him because my wife said, you got his number, text him. And I said, no, because that's like next level bugging somebody. But I finally did. And as soon as I said it, I got the little bubbles at the bottom, like he's answering. I'm like, Brad Paisley's answering my text. And he's like, dude, did you not get my email? I'm totally in. Let's do this thing, And so I did a little happy dance in the kitchen there with my wife and said, Brad Paisley's going to sing in my song. So, yeah, so that's how that started.
Man, that is really cool. I liked it, too, that you geek out about the bubble because I geek out about the bubble all the time when I'm like, holy cow. I'm looking at some of your numbers here, and I want to get to what the song's going to do in a second, but you have 5 Grammys, 59 Dove Awards, you're gospel music's most awarded artist, 1 American Music Award, you sold over 10 million albums, you have 49 number 1 songs. Do you have another house for just your awards, Stephen Curtis? Do you have one next door? You just walk over in it, knock, and go in and look?
Yeah. Years ago, Gary Chapman, who always gave me a hard time, we're not related, but same last name, and he said that I should melt all my Dove Awards down into like one big one and put it in a fountain, like in the front yard. So no, I just have a studio where they're kind of tucked away up on a nice shelf, out of sight, out of mind, but they're there because I'm grateful for all of them. Obviously, I'm blown away. Kid from Paducah, Kentucky. How does that happen? But just God's goodness, I guess.
That is so cool. This song, by the way, Together We'll Get Through This, not an official single, but it is raising funds for COVID causes, including the Grand Ole Opry Trust Fund, which I'm very involved with the Grand Ole Opry, and this is it's such a good organization. How did you get involved with this song going towards that?
Well, I mean, all of us, obviously, in the music business have been deeply affected by this, all of us all over the world, which is part of why I wrote this song, because we are, in fact, in this together. I know I've never experienced anything in my lifetime that has leveled more the playing field or the ground. We're all on common ground, no matter what you do, where you are. But some have been obviously more impacted even than others. And because of no concerts, no, opportunities just for all the layers of that, from musicians to crew guys to buses to, concert goers and venues and guys that sell the merchandise. I mean, it's just impacted the lives of so many people. And so I wrote this song thinking, of obviously I want to try to bring people together. I want to encourage what I see as a little ray of light that's been shining through this very dark time. And that's that idea that we really do need each other, that we are made for a relationship, to be together, to work together in these things, something we desperately need in our world now, I think more than ever, and in our nation. And so I was inspired by that and wanted to write a song that kind of kicked the door open for that crack of light to get a little bit brighter. And so with that, I thought, man, it'd be great if there are proceeds, anymore with music and the way it works. You don't know, but as there are, God willing, some proceeds, I'd love to be able to help artists and people impacted, particularly in the music business, both through the Opry Trust Fund, which I played on the Opry the first time when I was 19 years old. So it's been full circle for me to come back and get to play the Opry a lot more recently. In fact, hopefully we'll cross paths there at some point and I'll meet you face to face. But and then also for the Gospel Music Association has a fund as well for many of the artists that gave us great gospel music over the years and now are struggling to just keep food on the table and the people that associate with them and work with them. So just to try to help some people that obviously are kind of in my field and in my area of music.
That's so cool. By the way, Stephen Curtis Chapman is on with us right now. It's rare you get to talk to someone you're a big fan of and you have been. It's always the coolest, too, when you get to meet someone, and I know we're just meeting virtually here, but you get to meet someone who you were a fan of as a kid because it's always that much cooler. Did you ever have that where you were a fan of somebody as a kid and you got to meet them when you got older and you were like, man, this is really cool?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mentioned Glenn Campbell a minute ago. I had, as a kid, I grew up, Glenn's music was probably some of my favorite, a lot because my dad, my now 80-year-old dad, is a great guitar player, great singer, and sounds a lot. When he was younger, at Glenn's age, he sounded a lot like him. I could play you records of my dad. You would hear it. But so I was a huge fan, and I'll never forget I was doing a Dove Awards, which is, gospel music's annual big kind of award deal. And it was being hosted that year by Glenn Campbell and Marilyn McCoo, if you remember. Some of you will remember her name. And I had this knock at my door, and and I opened the door, and it was Glenn Campbell, and he was standing there saying, "Hey, I want to meet Stephen Curtis Chapman because I like his music." And I was just like,
That's so cool.
Mind blown. So, yeah, there have been a lot of those opportunities. I was hanging out, one real quick other one, because I just thought of this. It's so fun to tell this story. I was standing on a street corner, my first Grammy Awards with my wife in New York. This is when it was at Radio City Music Hall. Ricky Skaggs and his bride, Sharon White, were standing there, and I'm like, "Ricky Skaggs, hey, I'm a big fan. I love your music." He's like, "You're Stephen Curtis Chapman. I love what you're doing too, brother." So I'm like, "No way." He said, "Let's go have lunch. Let's go get, a deli. Let's go get a sandwich." So we're walking to a deli, and we walk past a window, and he starts making faces inside the window in New York City at some guy sitting at a table, and it's Michael McDonald from the Doobie Brothers.
Oh, come on.
So he's like, I'm like, "You know Michael McDonald?" And he said, "Yeah, you want to meet him?" So Ricky Skaggs takes me in to meet Michael McDonald. So, I mean, just crazy.
That's awesome.
Cool things.
And just to double down on Ricky and I have become good friends since I've started playing the Opry and working at the Opry a lot. And he is the greatest guy. Ricky Skaggs is the greatest guy. And
he is. Yeah, he is world class.
Well, let me ask you one final question here, because I was looking through and I wanted to really see which of your albums resonated the most with me, because you can kind of associate an album to a part of your life. But what I noticed was you have a lot of different hairstyles that I really didn't keep track of as they were. So what I want, and I wrote this question down, was that of all the hairstyles on all the albums, which one do you regret the most?
Oh, Lord have mercy. The mullet was really cool for about 15 minutes in the late 80s. Thank you, Billy Ray. But I perfected it, I like to think. I mean, Billy Ray did, but I kind of took it to a whole nother level with the curl and everything. So if you ever look at the Real Life Conversations album, that was the one, because that's probably the one that I'm most like, why didn't somebody that loved me pull me aside and go, "Dude, you're going to really regret this someday"? But no, they were all just laughing behind my back, I think.
Well, what a great guest you were today. Not that I wasn't expecting it, but you just never know. How about this? Hey, everybody, Stephen Curtis Chapman's a great guest for the radio show. We got to get him back in here. Okay, here's the deal. Everybody listening right now, just on a serious note, the song is called "Together We'll Get Through This" with Stephen Curtis Chapman, Brad Paisley, Lauren Elena, and Tasha Cobbs Leonard. And I'm a big fan of all the music. Know if you stream this song that it will raise funds for COVID causes, including the Grand Ole Opry Trust Fund. He is from Paducah, Kentucky. Your dad had a music store. You grew up in it, and you did a lot of good with it, my friend. So thank you very much for your life contribution to me and music, and I hope to see you in real life real soon.
Yeah, me as well, Bobby. Truly an honor, man. Thank you so much, and appreciate the shout-out for the song and what you do.
Good to see you.
Thanks.
Stay safe.
All right, man. All right, brother.
Bye-bye.